I'm Stuart Thompson, editor of Digital TV Europe. I'm here with Charlie Johnson, who is VP of Digital Element. Charlie, what is IP geolocation? That's the topic you're dealing with here. What is IP geolocation, and what benefits, if any, does it provide for broadcasters?
Thanks, Stuart. IP geolocation is something everybody knows of, but little understanding of how it can be used and its effectiveness is one of the key things. So Digital Element are the leading provider in IP geolocation data, firstly down to a latitude and longitude level, and secondly in providing notification when it's a circumvention IP, so someone's trying to hide their end location. In terms of its uses in the digital TV world, they're ever developing and advancing. So for years it was used for geofencing, it still is, its fundamental background is using for geofencing and protecting content rights, but these days it's going so much further in velocity tracking, machine learning and how you can underpin cybersecurity techniques that sit around your data, your subscription services, through to funneling on your marketing techniques, advertising, analytics. So many different ones, probably ones I don't even think of the guys are using it for.
What are the challenges in using it, and what is available to overcome those?
I think there's several challenges when it comes to IP geolocation. One of the first, which I would like to address quite upfront, is a lot of misunderstanding over IP data next to GDPR. An IP address on its own, in its own format, next to geodata, is not GDPR personally identifiable data. Of course, there are restrictions over the data that's appended to it, and that's presenting itself as a challenge. But the beauty for broadcasters, content owners, etc., is to have a great relationship directly with the user that allows them to use that data and append it to an IP address. Second is over accuracy. There's a whole raft of free data that's available in the market, data that's running at a low cost, but accuracy, I mean, at best you're looking at sort of 20 to 30% within the UK and European markets, which frankly, does that even count as accuracy? There are other areas that act as challenges. You can't get away with talking about IP data and not talk about circumvention, which is a massive challenge around there, and the whack-a-mole game that is accessing content as you go around. So in terms of how you can overcome them, I think that's a really detailed conversation that needs to be had directly with the engineers who are running the platforms, as well as those holding the license rights. But at a top level, it's all about vetting who you're working with, looking at the best practices of how you can use that data in an effective and efficient manner, and stay on top of accurate data. 5 to 7% of the IP space can change around the world every month. That can build up to significant numbers. It's fundamental to stay on top of that data and the accuracy you're running. But again, it's a detailed conversation to deal with the specifics.
Right. One thing we hear a lot about is IP spoofing. Can you tell me a little bit about what the issue is with that and what you can do to combat that?
Sure. I think IP spoofing is a problem that is faced not just by those in the broadcast industry, but those in all sorts of industries, ad fraud, cybersecurity, lots of areas, because an IP address is the fundamental way in which you enter and leave the internet, right? It's your dumbing it down, it's your telephone number in that context. So there's a huge appetite for, if I use the term loosely, fraudsters to try and build up business models by circumventing or spoofing that IP address in a variety of ways to work around it. The biggest challenge for those with quality content out there is it is quality content. People want to access it, and there's lots of constraints over the financials and the commercial model that sits around it. So there's a huge appetite for people to try and spoof an IP address and to look like they're coming from somewhere that they're not. We are actively working with many of the major broadcasters and delivery platforms all around the world in a variety of guises, trying to be able to be at the forefront of detecting these latest circumvention. It is a whack-a-mole game. IP spoofing is always going to be there, I believe. I really do. But it's about staying on top and doing the best breed. And one of the biggest things that we're finding is people who are actively working on coming up with the best solutions to stopping this, then people are moving sort of Zoran's eye, as it were, onto the those who aren't doing it, and those who are not providing circumvention sort of strategies for prevention. And so it's about trying to do the best that's out there, because people don't want to wait ages to access that content. They'll move on to something else.
Great. Now, there are a lot of different players in the chain when it comes to distributing content, from the studios down to the platforms, channels, and so forth. Who ultimately should take responsibility for ensuring that content rights are protected?
That's such a difficult question to answer, really, because I think everybody has a piece and a responsibility within that to protect the value of the content, which is ultimately what we're doing. This industry has really rocketed in recent years, and it's great. I personally love being able to take my content wherever I go, be able to watch it where I want. Husband's watching cricket, I'm watching something on one of my devices. It's excellent, it's keeping marriages alive. But in the nicest way, I think everybody has to take a responsibility. Nobody can say this problem belongs to one particular angle. It might not necessarily mean that you're actively holding the commercial arrangements, but it might be a case of you're the one who's insisting that proper IP protection is put into place. And so there's many different people, and I know from my own experience I'm working with many different people, varying from the studios, as you say, the content creators, etc., to enable a sort of full suite protection process to be put in place.
Great. And finally, Charlie, can you tell me just a little bit about what Digital Element specifically is providing to help rights holders manage these issues, and what other technology advances do you think we're going to see in the space?
So I've been working in the IP geolocation space for about 8 or so years, and what Digital Element provides in there, in its rawest format, is data. We don't tell people what to think, we don't tell people how to do things or anything like that. We don't know your business the way you do, and we take that seriously. So to answer your question, we're providing the most accurate IP data available within the market, as trusted, as accredited by many independent bodies. In terms of the future, I think we're seeing some really exciting developments going on. Machine learning is making a huge difference because it's allowing us, and we have a massive data scientist team now. The PhDs are in there. I'm told I'm still not allowed to break an arm in their vicinity. They can't put me back together. But these guys are able to build up logic that allows us to understand, is it physically possible for somebody to be where they say they are, given their previous behaviour? And that's really taking IP data to the next level. And I've been talking about velocity tracking for a few years with many broadcasters, and it's been on there. We do need to address this, but it's not urgent. Actually, as subscription models are increasing, it's increasing in its urgency. As Europe is becoming more and more diverse, the boundaries and borders are changing, it's increasing in prevalence. You know, you can be stood at the Isle of Sheppey and you get your France telecom notification. We have to be able to recognise you're in the Isle of Sheppey. So for Digital Element, we're focusing in on the machine learning, being able to understand, is this actually physically possible? Is this technically realistic? As well as what we do as our core strengths, which is the most accurate circumvention data and geodata to a lat long, and many other exciting things.
Great. Charlie, thanks very much.
Thank you, Stuart.